complicated. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken. If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
And Shalom Aleichem, good to have you all with us today. This is yours truly, Apostle B.W. Jones Sr. of, in fact, the broadcast called The Proceeding Word. Remembering that man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Today, I'm coming in hot. Now, I waited all month to address this matter that seems to always be flying around our culture and our community, and that is dealing with the issue of Black history, particularly when it relates to Black history within the Black church. And so this might seem racist to some. I assure you it's not. It's just history and people. But there will be preferences that lean over into my culture, which I am the epitome of an African American, African descendant of slaves in the United States of America. But all of our countries who have ever had any type of slavery roots, any Britain involvement, any Spaniard involvement, some of y'all keep missing that point. Okay. Any colonializing at all and or building of countries, even in Africa. Slavery has been, a big issue. So when you hear me talk about an African descendant of slaves in the United States of America, it is a completely different conversation than calling someone an African. So I want to be very astute in this 2-day series. So we'll be here today being Monday, and we'll be here on Wednesday to conclude these items and these elements. But, we are here for the proceeding word. Man doesn't live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh or Elohim every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. We're looking to hear you, see you be here with you, and hope that you will engage us in this conversation. It's going to be a monologue for the most part until I open up into a dialogue ultimately. So please, if you got thought, if you got questions, you got an idea, you want to share something, feel free, but understand this is a monologue. We will open it up into a dialogue as time progresses and or time should permit. So between today and Wednesday, I want you to listen to the content, get it in context, and then present your conversation intelligently and articulate enough that we can progress through it without a whole bunch of hiccups and have a literal conversation that is substantive. Okay. Now, today's subject is very important. It's a serious one. We're going to get into it in just a few moments. But just to give you a few announcements very quickly, again, the proceeding word is here with us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then, of course, as you know, on Wednesdays, we have our Bible book club, our Bible study, rather, which is 7 p.m. every Wednesday. Then we have, of course, our Bible book club, which is 7 p.m. Minister Jackie, I'm going to need you to do these announcements from now on. We're going back to that. I like when you were doing it. Bible book club will be on 7 p.m. on Thursdays. And then, of course, you know that this ministry is connected to Sabbath keeping, and we honor Sabbath. And I think that actually many of y'all need to know this as we do this announcement. Sabbath keeping is going to be very key to the conversation we talk about the Black church. And why the Black church is doing what it's doing, why we feel the need to have the Black church as a progenitor or propagator of the Black history experience. Today, I want to break it down in a way that you just didn't consider. That's the thing that gets me about being saved, particularly within Black Christendom, and Christendom in general, but on this topic, Black Christendom, how we know, but we didn't know. You've been reading it, seeing it, looking at it, but you just didn't consider. So today we want to touch and bridge those areas. We want to broach that and get going in that regard. So remember, we're Sabbath keeping ministry every Sunday, Saturday, Friday, every Friday at sundown till Saturday at sundown. That's how we live and we go from. And also on Sundays, the morrow after Sabbath, we do have our Darash Kingdom Ministries. But this is, of course, the proceeding word every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Now, today's proceeding word is going to be dealing with a very specific and subjective matter. It's coming into the concept of the proceeding word, the Black church in Black history. Listen to this. It's a Black affair. I'll come back and talk about it some more. But those of you who are viewing with us on our YouTube page, would you please hit like, subscribe, and then hit the notification bell? Those of you on Facebook, would you please hit the page, and then like the broadcast, and then drop something inside of the actual thread that would get our algorithms going. Many of you said, how do I bless the ministry? How we don't want your money, but we do want to make sure we're able to spread this information that has your attention. And you seem to like it, with others who think like we think. And that is the purpose of this whole function of the proceeding word. We want everyone who thinks like this to know that you're not alone. There are 7,000 over here who did not bow knee to Baal, and you might be stuck in a rut where you are with your theological thinking people, your religiously thinking people. You can come here and see that there is more to the Bible than what we've been told. So I want to make sure you get it and understand it. And so you want to share this today with your peers as you will. But we got to do first, man, we got to pray. Let's go. Father, we come before you in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. You said, and he said, there is no other way to you. He is the way, the truth, and the life. No man comes unto Yahweh the Father but by the access and knowledge of who he is. So we come to you, Yahweh, our Elohim, creator of heaven and earth and all that therein dwells, through our knowledge of who Yeshua HaMashiach is. And you created him to be the sacrifice. You created him to be a body that would bleed, that we could be redeemed from our sin by virtue of his blood. You also allowed for that body to house the Adonai of you, the Son of you, and walk in the earth, and we would see him full of glory and truth. And therefore, we know that he is the living word. And so we now see his ensample and demonstration of how to live in this human body in a world you made with the purpose you intended. So we know that he is your Lord of glory, your Lord of glory. So we thank you for his life, his death, his burial, his resurrection, his commitment to die out to his flesh to fulfill your plan, becoming the second Adam, because the first Adam messed up, but the second Adam you gave us, you did away with the first to establish the second. We are here under that context and that actual truth of what you're trying to get us to see in order to have a better relationship with you. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of you, Yahweh, our Elohim, and Yeshua HaMashiach demonstrated that. Thank you for making a human that would carry your word in par excellence. We're asking you today to hear us come towards you, to comprehend better how we have proper relationship with you in the earth. Teach us and we'll learn, show us and we'll see, speak to us and we will hear. I decrease all things VWJ program that you let me put on here, but I give this program to you. You are the VIP. You are the resident theologian. You are the creator of heaven and earth. Your words are supreme. My thoughts are not like your thoughts. Your ways are not like my ways. As far as the heavens are from the earth, are mine from yours. So I digress. I digress that you would increase. Adonai, have your way. Share with us from your word the content, that we might understand the context for how you would for man to live and be knowledgeable. Give us this practical understanding today. In the name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we say, Amen. Well, again, we have a broadcast for you today I think you're going to find very interesting. And I want you to share this. Come on. Are you sharing it? Are you giving up this information? Are you chatting in our chat box? Come on, do it, Facebook. Come on, YouTube. Did y'all hit the subscribe button yet? I need someone to make me a graphic for that live time subscribe, hit the bell thing. I want one of those like everybody else got on their YouTube pages. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So I need somebody to make sure we get that done. Sheikah, I'm coming for you. All right. So listen to this. The Black church in Black history. Y'all, it's a Black affair. Now, for many of you that might not understand that, as we've gone from the historical times, and you saw a clip that we put up on the board. For those of you who are on Clubhouse, I'm putting some graphics up on the screen on YouTube and on Facebook. So if you want to go over there, you can view them. I'm not going to be there all the time, but we're going to be talking quite a bit. But the Black church in Black history proves that it's a Black affair. So understanding the origins, which are the necessity for the Black church in our community, understanding its benefits, and in duality, its detriment to said community. So I'm ready to dive into it. Let's talk about it. We want to make sure we understand that we have a real purpose and a real plan for the actual church. Now, I want y'all to get this because this is really, really, really significant. Okay, to all of my pastors, prophets, evangelists, pastors, and teachers, all those who are leaders in ministry, you're speaking over people, you're sharing with people, you are an authority, a set woman, set angel, however you want to term it, deem it, whatever it is, ordained, sanctioned, whatever, all that wonderful stuff. I want you to understand we have to do better articulating facts about our faith. And because we've not done as stellar of a job as I'd like to say we should do with articulating the facts of our faith, many people fade away once they've been introduced, get excited about it, and then they leave. One of those things is why the church even exists. And the bigger issue is how we've morphed the church into an idea that is religious as opposed to the function of its purpose. So I want to touch that. We got 2 days to talk about this. It's going to be Monday and Wednesday, and I'm not going to be long today. We're going to be real short, but I want you guys to consider having a dialogue with me about this. And I promise you, we're going to open your eyes up to something very key. Now, I told you on Sunday, we had a conversation because there was a post that's trying to break the internet. And a dear person that I always admire and love made a post and says, well, you know, going to church, viewing online, going to online church is like viewing a fireplace on a screen. You see the fire, but you can't feel it. And of course, you know, many people have made their statement about that says, oh, it's not true, I can feel it, or yeah, you're right, that's right. And everybody went to and ran to Hebrews chapter 10, verse 25, where it states, and I quote, forsaking not the assembling of yourselves together, as some is. And so people have used that within Christendom to say that's why you gather to church, but they never read the whole chapter of Hebrews chapter 10. Hebrews chapter 10, as I explained explicitly and unequivocally and properly, that Hebrews chapter 10 is Paul talking to Torah observant entities who have become lax in their responsibilities as Torah or Israelis. Some of you better use the term Jews of his day. The book of Hebrews is not a book written to Gentiles, though we benefit from it. But the book of Hebrews was a book by the author to Hebrew people who were Torah observant. And they did or they didn't, but he was telling them, get back to the instructions of the Torah. And in that, there are, in Hebrews chapter 10 alone, he breaks down all 3 feast seasons. He breaks down Pesach, the death of our Savior. He breaks down Shavuot, the giving of the Torah. Some of you call that Pentecost. And then he also broke down Sukkot, the recoming of our Savior, and the time that the high priest goes in behind the veil to put the blood and hear the word, right? So that was Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And he says, watch this. So because of those 3 feast seasons, Deuteronomy 16 tells you, every man shall come on these 3 seasons to Jerusalem. And then he makes it very clear, watch this. Then he makes it very clear, with that having been said, you guys have stopped coming during these feast seasons. So forsake not the assembly. You're listening to my letter. You're listening to my conversation. You know this is convicting of you. You know you've not been following the Torah. Paul teaching Hebrews, not Gentiles. We benefit from it, but Paul is speaking to Hebrews. Yes, Paul wrote the book. Don't care what you say. In any event, when Paul makes this statement and this plea through the epistle to the Hebrews, he says, forsake not the assembling of yourselves as the manner of some is. Why? Because manner means custom. Manner means law. Manner means instruction. So when he was saying, don't forsake the assembling of yourselves together, because you know the instruction in the Torah tells us that on these 9 days, 7 appointed times, 3 feast seasons, we are to appear to Jerusalem, appear to the place where he put his name. That's what it means. I know what we've repurposed it to mean, but that's what it means. And you can go to Leviticus chapter 23, or just go back to the teaching I did on Sunday, right here on the same channel. For those of you viewing, those of you on Clubhouse, you'll have to go to the Darash Kingdom, DKM house to get that teaching, but it's right there for you. So in Leviticus 23, you see that Yahweh has told them long after they left Egypt, on these 3 seasons, I want you all to come to me, because I want you to be in the place where I'm going to meet you to bless you as you go into the promised land. 3 times a year, I want you to come to where I put my name, right? So that's the tabernacle, right? Wherever the tabernacle is, wherever you guys go, when you get in your promised land, you're going to be set up in different regions, and the topography is going to have you feeling it. But I want you all to migrate back down to where I put my name, the tabernacle, i.e. the temple in Yeshua's day. And I want you to come there bearing a certain gift that I recommend, and also presenting your bodies to me, your living sacrifices. That's the edict. That's the command. That's the manner as some is. I don't have all day to do this, so I got to get moving. So now when you read this in Leviticus 23, you understand what Paul wrote in Hebrews chapter number 10. And now if you know who Hebrews is being written to, and stop thinking you so special, Mr. and Mrs. American and or Britain and or African who was not of Hebrew descent and Israeli descent, stop thinking this is for you. We benefit from it. But Paul was writing to his own people, his own culture, saying, yo, we are failing the task of the command of Elohim. Yeshua came to put it back in order. So now that you know who he was, now you know who he crucified. So what we need to do is to not forsake the assembling of ourselves together, as some is, as the manner of some is, as our tradition, as our culture, as our commandment, as our mitzvah in the Torah instructs. Ain't got nothing to do with you going to church on Sunday, because the day that you go to church is his Sabbath, not the 7th day Sabbath. So Leviticus 23 tells you about the Moedim Sabbaths. Exodus chapter 16, Shemot chapter 16, in the Torah as well, tells you on the 7th day, you don't leave your house. You don't go to church on the 7th day. You become the church. That's why the psalmist David, the king, David, made this statement and said this very clear. I was glad when they finally said unto me, let us go into the house of Yahweh. They didn't do that every week, y'all. They did that on those 3 feast seasons, on those 7 appointed times. I can't count how many fingers I got. 3, 4, 4, and 3, 7 appointed times. And those 7 appointed times are carried out over 9 days as an experience, right? So he is telling them, I was glad in 365 days of a year when they tell me, hey, y'all, it's time to go to the sanctuary. It's time to go to the tabernacle. I was glad when they said unto me. Now, some of you who are theologians, some of you who are preachers, you're listening to this and you're like, oh, snap. Okay, and you might even get mad and be like, no, we're supposed to go to church on Sunday. The only people who say we're supposed to go to church on Sunday is a person trying to keep their Sunday place paid for. Now, we go to church on Sunday, but we go with purpose. Sunday is not the Sabbath. So we're not knocking going to church. We all should go to church. We're talking about Black history. I'm not done. I'm just giving you the premise so you understand where we've taken it. So yes, it's great to gather. A church, the definition of a church properly and through many different dictionaries, whether it's Meridian, whether it's Oxford, whether it's Cambridge, all the dictionaries will tell you very simply, even Wikipedia, a church gathering is where you, having like-minded people, come together for your like-minded experience and culture. That's what a church is. We relegated the Christians' church to the place in the house of God. Wrong. That error has us drifted away from the purpose of gathering. So the tabernacle is a church, just like to Islam, a mosque is a church, or to Buddha and or Hare Krishna, their temple is a church. Or watch this, it gets deeper, just like Walmart is a church. Yep. And the strip club is a church. Yep. And the juke joint is a church. Yep. And the basketball gym and the football field and the soccer field and the school is a church. Oh my goodness. Wake up. There you go. It's going to hit. I get it. Now watch what happens next. When you understand that a church is simply a place where people gather who have like mind about a particular way in culture that they want to nurture, and they teach it from that. That's all a church is. Church ain't where God lives. You are where he lives. And when like-minded people having him in their mind, keep your mind stayed on him, because he'll keep you in perfect peace when we all like-minded gather at a place, we're in church. But that ain't God's house. You and I are. So when we come together with like minds about him, now his presence is as he requires. Now, when he tells humanity, I'm going to give you my name to put on the tabernacle I asked you to make, because I'm going to put my word there. And I'm going to show you what to do there. And then David says, well, it's just a little tent. We want it bigger, grander. We want to make a shrine to you. Okay, David, only because your heart is right, I'm going to give you permission to make me a temple that would compete with the demigods y'all got you fighting these nations with. And you can do that because I know your heart, David. You're just giving me a grand go. He says, I'm going to let you borrow my name. He didn't say I'm going to live there. God doesn't live in your church. Stop making people think that you come to church to see God. You come to church to have an invitation to how to access him. Now, that is what sets this conversation for Black History Month. Are y'all okay with this now? Now, so people have asked over the internet, it goes crazy, it gets weird, it gets bugged out. And they will say, should the Black church, should Black history, should we even have a Black History Month, right? And I got my thoughts about it, and you'll see how they bleed into this conversation, and you'll be able to make your own determination. But should there be a Black History Month? I really don't think so. Is there a White History Month? Uh-oh, all of my Black people mad at me now. You a sellout. No. You got sold something you didn't pay attention to. If they relegate your history to a month and you know that your history is in fact a part of true creation, you're the ignorant one. Now, am I biting and backing against Black History Month? Absolutely not. I think it's necessary, particularly under the dynamics we live with slavery and all the necessary and unaccomplished reparations, all the different things that we've had to deal with and comprehend. Do I think that Black History Month is necessary? No. Do I think it can be helpful? I do. So am I against it? No, I'm not. I'm against the mentality that thinks that that's what justifies us as Black people. Now, I said a whole lot, and I want to back it down to this point. So when you approach Black history with an understanding that it's necessary for certain people who were born after slavery, after Jim Crow, after Plymouth Rock, after the Civil War, the Union War in America, and as well as what went on in the UK and all the Caribbeans, and how the slave plantations all over the globe, how Africans were actually sold by other Africans to nations who wanted slaves. Y'all didn't catch that part, did you? Africans sold other Africans to nations who wanted slaves. Keep that in your head. I'm gonna pause another 3 seconds for that part. I'll repeat it. Africans sold Africans to other nations, Spaniards, what you call Britons, Europeans today, and Britain, Europeans, and different people different nations who wanted to have slaves, and they could get them for peanuts on the dollar and snatch them off their land. So Africans sold their own people, facts, to make money on their enemies, on nations they wanted removed from them. They didn't know it would backfire on the way it did, but that's what actually happened. So when you understand the plight of why Africans predominantly, not solely, we're not relegating slaves to only Africans, but for the Black history process, understand it in context, okay? Now, when you realize this, you have to now understand why the need to, in America, because Black History Month is really an American thing. So those of you who are with me from Vietnam, China, those of you who are with me from UK, this may not hit y'all the way it hits us, but you know about it because it's just all over the internet. And we're sort of kind of now able to travel through the internet into each other's cultures, right? So in America, it's a real big thing because people have been disenfranchising disrespecting the African American here, saying that they're lazy and they can't do anything, and they're this, they're that, and they're the other, and you don't know their plight. And so Black History Month was necessary to remind not only the Caucasoids who and the American founding fathers who enslaved these African Americans, but it also began to incorporate a history that many wanted to have snuffed under the rug. And that is still happening today in America with the different states who want to take away history books that talk about slavery because it's offensive to them. Because, okay, these was our forefathers, they did that, we're not those same people, we don't want to read about this, we don't want to hear about this, but you want to slam me and tell me about what, you know, George Jefferson did, George Washington did. You still have history. Yes, that's a president, but you are giving these disparaging and these inaccurate accords of who did what. You don't want to give credit to a melanated individual who made the cell phone, who actually is responsible for the light bulb, who's actually responsible for the telephone, who's actually responsible for the peanut butter, who's actually responsible for many different things that are going on, the GPS system, all these different things, the traffic light, all these different things that you live by and you love by. Do not want to talk about the fact that you had all these melanated people in a lab that you owned, and by being in the lab, you own the lab and everything in it. So whatever Black melanated inventor came up with something, you trademarked it, gave them nothing for it, just a place to live, room, board, and food. And then the next thing you know, you're getting the credit for it down in history. So 25 years after these people are dead, the history books record your name on the trademark. And now the history book says Alexander did this, Thomas Edison did this, and that wasn't the real case. So that's why Black history is necessary. Do y'all follow me right now? Now y'all think I'm gonna sell out? Okay. So here are some of the points to that piece. Now, when we talk about this and we really get into the concept of what the Black church is in regards to Black history, I'm now going to dissect this, and it's going to take 2 days to do it. But if you follow this, it should be an interesting conversation for you. So the conversation was stated, should the Black history be a big issue for us? It should not be, but unfortunately, it has to be, because there are so many people who want to literally annihilate it. This way they can say that they had no knowledge of what produced the issue with the African American in America. Well, y'all should get over it, pull your bootstraps up and keep going. Well, we gave us boots, but you didn't give us shoestrings because you knew if we had shoestrings, we'd run past you. So miss me with the pull the bootstraps up. Got it? You gave us boots, but you didn't give us strings. So just because some other black person said pull it by your bootstraps and keep it moving, don't mean that's what we were going to be given as a tool to get out, because you gave us boots without shoestrings. Miss me with that. And the only reason you gave us the boots is because you had us in slavery. So we couldn't go out and make our own. I hope y'all got that part. Y'all still listening to me? It's going to be 2 days. I hope you come back. So now watch this next piece. When the issue of Black history comes up, now we automatically go to, by default, particularly in this generation, we run to, by default, this particular issue where we say to ourselves, Martin Luther the King, right? I have fun with that, right? The Reverend, the Martin Luther the King, right? A great man, great civil rights icon, along with many others, Edgar Evers, Booker T. I can name them all. I'm just got so many things in my head I want to share with y'all. I'll give those names on Wednesday. Medgar Evers, thank you. I'll miss the names up, but yeah, I got. There's a lot that can go into this. I mean, for that matter, you can even talk about Al Sharpton. But he's in the mix, right? And history is going to be like, well, Al Sharpton did marches, right? Jesse Jackson did marches. Jesse Jackson ran for president. 25 years from now, when these people are dead and younger people who come up behind them, they're just going to read the history books. They won't know the actual intertwinings, the nuances, the things that we will later on deem as ancillary to the fact. But they're not. They're extremely inherent to the facts. And we have to make sure that that's on the mind of whoever reads this later for hindsight. Now, the Black church, history, Black history. When you take and put Martin Luther the King, the iconic figure because of his martyrdom and literally because of his work that he did, now you got to go back into the history of that. You got to go back into the history of how Martin Luther the King got involved in civil rights. And for those of you who don't know, and I did an extensive study on this on 2 different platforms in 2 different decades, and Martin Luther the King did not want to get involved in the civil rights movement. His church nominated him to do so. So somebody said, I don't want to do it, but I think let's get him to do it. Those are facts in a very broken down nutshell. I'm going to leave that generally right there. Now, he did take the baton, and I'm so glad he ran with it. And maybe he was prophetically put to be in that position at that time, like many of you are. But those are facts some of you do not have and give consideration to. So without going into all the different names of who did what, I want to talk about the Black church and its role in Black history. So the titlement for this particular talk and teach is that the Black church in Black history, it's actually a Black affair. And the benefits of the Black church in Black history is enormous. I mean, really freaking enormous. It's awesome. But also the detriment of the Black history in the Black church is equally enormous. I'll repeat it. The benefit of the Black church and Black history couldn't have done Black history. Martin Luther King could not have done what he done without it to help in general, nationally, and probably even globally, which is why he got the Peace Award. What's the thing called? What's the Peace Award called? The Nobel Peace Prize, right? He got the Nobel Peace Prize. So once he got the Nobel Peace Prize, it's because that's a global affair, and all of societies all over the globe are saying, hey, yo, that's a great humanitarian thing. And it's wrong for them to have done that, even though we're practicing it. But hey, he's made this good choice. So he got the Nobel Peace Prize. And at end of day, the benefits of the Black church helped him to get awareness to the world. So the Black church had an awesome benefit in pushing the icons of Black history along. Just like Malcolm X, he had the mosque, he had Islam, NOI. So Gandhi, um, 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 uh, uh, Nelson Mandela, none of them could have done the things that they did without these places to meet and sort of kind of disguise what efforts they were planning from the population they're trying to break free from. So when you understand what the church really did and how it was a tool and a mechanism to help the cause in those years, and once they died, the children born after them saw it as now the responsibility of that mechanism to always do that, when in fact, even going back beyond Martin Luther, beyond Mandela, going back beyond people like Gandhi and his faith, and people like Malcolm and his faith, and anybody else we have in our faith who try to promote something for Black history, you have to understand that even going back to slavery, and that's just recent history too, they use the church to make their political conversations safe. What do you mean, Apostle? Pay attention closely. The church, in general and in proper definition, is a meeting place. It is not the house of Elohim. However, those who have like mind and have Elohim in mind would gather at a building, i.e. a church, and thereby talk about their common denominator, their common mindset. When oppressors allowed the oppressed to gather, it was usually around gathering around their God. Whatever you want to talk about, the colonization and how people were brainwashed into Christendom by the Catholic Church, which was the greatest colonializers I know. And then they broke up in Europe, and then you got them going into being Dutch and being, Polish, and then being Italian, and then being Britain. All that came from the same stuff, y'all. Please know your history, right? So the colonizing and what went on in forcing places you conquered to come over to your religious way because you're now in charge is what can never be forgotten. And many of you do. And that's why when we talk like this, I sound crazy, I sound weird, and this is unnecessary and divisive. No, you just don't know the history. You don't know the root of the problem. So when these conquerors now oppress a people to control them, they utilize whatever element of what we call spirituality that the people they oppressed had. So they wouldn't mind the people spiritually gathering, and thereby by spiritually gathering, the actual colonizers felt like they were trying to transition through into their forced subservitude. And then the oppressor would then integrate into the oppressed's culture with some liaisons and try to stitch their religion to the oppressed's religion. And therefore you got all these different versions of religion. Now, I said a whole lot more to y'all without giving you the text and the books to do it. And I generalized it as quick and as best as I could. But that is the origin of most of your church. So when the oppressors would let the oppressed slaves actually gather, they were comfortable once they got enough liaisons. The oppressors got enough liaisons into the oppressed communities and see how they would religiously serve their gods. They would then stitch those things together and then say, well, let's use this because that's what they trust. We're good with that. At least they're making peace with the oppression. We know we're being hard taskmasters, but if they're praying to their God, it's not. Let's just make sure they're not praying to their God to kill us, and then we go in and look like we are concerned and that we are also interested in their God, even though our God beat their God because we beat you, so our God must be greater. Y'all need to pay attention. And so when you talk about it this way, the oppressors, once they got their foot in and the people they oppressed started to say, well, they are acknowledging our God. Okay. All right. And then over time, decades, sometimes century, the oppressor, still oppressing the people, would find a cute little nuance with the religious piece. Now, the oppressor, knowing how you are doing your religious duties, agree with or not agree with, they're just using it to keep you oppressed. Y'all didn't know that? Okay. They're just using it to keep you oppressed. And now, once they've got you to the point where you are saying generations, and usually it's the generations that come after the generation they slaughtered to bring you into their control. And the mothers would be incorporated in bringing the children to a place to say, hey, look, just do what Mr. Johnny say. Hey, just do what that people say. Just do what those colored people say. Go do what those that just do what they say so we can live. And as those children grow up out of the womb with that mindset, now the people that got slaughtered to bring about the oppression are gone. Their fight is gone. Those warriors are gone. So the children of those warriors, the percentage of them having that gusto and fight based on how mom is saying we got to live. And some men are like, look, we got to build up our masses. We're still always thinking about it, but we don't know how to overcome this. And they would use these types of mindsets, which are the descendants of those they slaughtered. And as you continue to go down generationally, their fight is weakened. Now the spiritualizing of these things come back in, and they're seeing how they do their worship. No uprises, nothing we can't handle, no big campaigns. We're good. So now the oppressor has the oppressed understanding that we can believe in your God too. We're going to make these announcements. We're going to make these amendments, and we're going to make these types of scenarios as well. Now, what happens once the oppressed finally starts to get the history of how they got oppressed? I'm talking about 3 generations after the butchered of their descendants. And someone is like, they took what they took from us. The violent took it by force. And some child in the spirit of their ancestry would kick up and like, this ain't right. We need our own land, and they're not treating us right. But because they see how you worship, they now have said, we want to fight back. We want to fight against the oppressor, but we know we've actually helped the oppressor fortify their position over us. Please pay attention, because I'm going to be on this for 2 days and I'm going to break it down plain. So when the oppressed now says this ain't right, we're going to find a way to fight. They couldn't do it by launching marches in public without being organized. So the safest place to use that the oppressor would not consider a problem was behind their religious faith. Let them have their religious meetings. That keeps them calm. That keeps them cool. But they would then be okay with the oppressed going to their church. This is globally, people, not just US of A. So now, when the oppressor is comfortable with you going to church on your Sunday, your Wednesday night, let them go to church. They're going to sing, they dance. That's how they get over what we're doing to them, right? And then the oppressor is cool with that. So now when the intelligent of the oppressed say, We can't just have these conversations. They got moles, they got ears, they got eyes, they got informants that are listening to everything we're saying so they can keep us oppressed. The safest place we have is our churches. So let's use the churches. It'll masquerade. Watch, I'm going to get somewhere. It'll masquerade as us having church, which we will do. But then, because we're gathered, we'll now add to the service the conversation of our liberation. Because they see us in church. We do that all the time. They've been watching that for centuries with us, for decades with us. Ooh, we love our God. Hallelujah, buck, buck, kick, kick. Hallelujah. Oh, them black people, they over there just having church. We don't do all that stuff. In our churches, the Caucasians would say, in our churches, we just, oh, hail God Almighty. Amen. And then we're out, right? But they want to sit in there all day, get sweaty. It's got a little smell in there. So we're not going to stay in there all day with them with all that hair. Is that ironed hair? I'm smelling. Is that grease? Is that crown? That's crown. That's Afro Sheen product. Yeah, and we don't. It smells weird. I don't want to be in there. So they're like, okay, well, we know what they're doing when they go there, and that was a safe thing for the oppressed to do, and they would use that as a way to now say, let's talk about getting free. We got God. Now let's talk about getting free. And Master, okay, because he think we just having church. So now we understand Black history regarding the Black church. See, many people made the mistake of thinking that the Black church preached liberation. No, the Black church preached the Bible. And then they used the catalyst and the compartment of the church to now bring activists for liberation in under, and they could have the conversation with the people they needed to have it with and feel somewhat safe, that they could garner up their strength, gather up their ideas in a safe environment shrouded by their religious gathering. Now, back to modern day. Why did we say what we say? Y'all learning anything today?
Yes, sir.
Give me a thumbs up on Facebook, on YouTube, because we're going to be talking about this for 2 days. I want to make sure we set foundation. So now, while we understand this issue of Black history and the Black church in Black history, we got to understand the intent of church. So we have Black church, but there's also white church, there's Catholic church, there's all different types of church. But since we talk about Black church, we feel entitled that we just represent God, right? You don't. So you can, but that's not to relegate it to God. Now watch this. The church, the role of the church is not Black, white, Jews, Hebrew. It's not. It's a gathering place. But when you go to who you and I, the Christian, the Bible's God is, the God of the Bible gave us an instruction about the gathering place. He gave us not only instructions about the gathering place, but what the gathering place does. Now, for many of you, you don't know it, but church is a substitute word for the tabernacle in our faith system. Substitute word for the temple. All of them are, historically recorded. So when you understand the first tabernacle Elohim gave, barring humanity, that we would be told to come to was the tabernacle of the Torah. So for you and I who believe in the Bible, that's our first church. Okay? There was also Noah's Ark, but we're not going to go there. That would take too much to talk about. So your first actual church, how many of y'all caught that? Noah's Ark. I didn't get that was the first church. Okay, so anyway, yeah. Y'all didn't know Noah's Ark was typology of Yeshua HaMashiach. Y'all didn't get that. Okay, so watch this next piece. So the actual church, the first place that you gathered was based on the Torah, and it was called the tabernacle. Now, in the tabernacle, watch this, The tabernacle is where the actual word of Elohim was housed inside of an ark, which was accompanied by Aaron's rod that budded, speaking about the resurrection of life, and then the showbread, the manna that was given to them when they left Egypt. And that bread remained inside that ark. So you had the word, the rod, and the bread in the ark. Somebody say that's actually Yeshua. Pretty impressive, right? So now you have that. Now, what they did, the Levites were the people responsible for the tabernacle, all things tabernacle. So the church of the first church, Yahweh gave Moshe instructions for, is that the Levites are to oversee proper propagating of this book by all the Levites, and the Levites are to make sure that the tabernacle is immaculate, cleaned, well stocked. And when my instructions from the Torah are given to the people would follow the instructions. Simple things such as bring their tithe to this storehouse. The Levites had to receive the tithe from the 3.2 million people in the camp. So the Levites worked to receive what Yahweh told the camp to bring, right? Levi also brought likewise. He then would tell them the Levites will be the ones who serve in the tabernacle for the instructions from the tabernacle. Now watch this, because I'm going to touch on something many of you don't pay attention to. But when in fact that church would use the Levites, which the church, the tabernacle, the Torah was their inheritance. All the other tribes got land. They got groves. They got orchards. They got cattle. They got mines, fields, oil. They got stuff. They got regions. The Levites got the tabernacle. Now watch this. When all the other tribes on their lands would bring the offerings and the tithe, the Levites were the accountants. So you brought to the tabernacle as the storehouse of Elohim. Now watch this. Nowhere in the Bible does that which was brought to the tabernacle by the indigenous people of that land and those tribes ever make a withdrawal based on what they deposited. Now, why do I say that? Because the modern church today, there's a mentality based on how we've repurposed things that people think that if I give my tithe to this ministry, you pay my light bill. No, that's an augmentation based on many faiths mixed in under a Catholic religion millennia after Elohim gave us the tabernacle. The tabernacle never paid the light bills for anybody. It did, in fact, make sure that there was a collection for the widows and the fatherless. But there was no person who came to the tabernacle who had land, who had their inheritance, who had their homes they didn't build, and vines they didn't plant, and orchards they didn't plant. But when they came and gave their tithe, that the actual tabernacle came back and paid their light bill. They didn't do that. The tabernacle did not pay the mortgage for the people. Now stay close. When you understand this, you now see how our black church is different from the church we say we mimic. Oops. So when you have a church that wasn't built like Yah's church, then you have building funds 18 years running. I'm sorry. It's just these are just facts. I know y'all do what y'all do because we repurpose church. So just don't be mad at me for giving y'all the facts. I'm not telling y'all what to do. I'm just telling y'all what he said to do. So the church you and I have today, and I'm gonna be specific, the black church today, unless he build the church, they that labor in vain, which is why we have 1,100 churches per month closing down in the United States alone. So that means how many have actually been established. So if 1,100 are closing, at least 3,000 got to be opening because everybody got their own ideal. But because it's not built Yahweh's way, then 1,100 of them close every month because they weren't built the right way. They built them their way, which is the model of those from the generations they were born to, which are not back to the core. That's why if you don't read Torah, you just read your Bible, you think you understand how to have church, and you don't. So now, when the first church was built, I'm going to get off that nuance of the giving. The first church was built so that the Levites could push from the actual tabernacle the word of God as to how life should be. So when you gathered, you only gathered 9 times to that building as a community. Otherwise, you came as an individual to drop off your tithe. The only time you went to the sanctuary, the tabernacle, even in Yeshua's day, the temple, you went on the 9 days of the 7 feasts of the 3 feast seasons. That's 9 times in 365 days, y'all. That's it. Unless you were bringing your tithing or another offering for sin, because that's what you did every daggone day. Now, we've reconstructed church. It's not the way Elohim designed it, but we swear we're Elohim approved. Now, how do I do this without getting myself in more trouble and losing a lot more of our viewers? So the black church is a product of the hand-me-downs from generations after the generations of oppressed people. And now we've been given by colonization an inappropriate form of the Torah, the God of the Bible's intention for why we gather. And now we have this Roman Catholic concept passed down. Then there was a divide in the Roman Catholic construct, and you and I ended up becoming Protestants because of the generations before us who fought and made that happen under Martin Luther, who was a priest in Rome in Catholicism, not Martin Luther the King, our icon for Black history, okay? 2 different Martin Luthers, okay? So at the end of the day, the Martin Luther of the priesthood, he actually fought against Rome because he wanted the money to stay on his side of the land and not get on that boat and go back to Rome. And so he waged this protest. 95 Theses, he posted it on the door. The people said, these are the things of the Bible that they say they are honoring, and I'm going to prove to you that them taking this money is as wrong as these 95 things they're not doing, though they preach to us from the book of these 95 things. So we want to let them know, we know you're lying, so give us back the money. Let us keep more of the money here so we don't have to fight and struggle and go through these things. Martin Luther won that campaign. That's when you and I became known as, or that's when the concept of Protestant protesting Catholicism, Christianity began. Black church history. Come on. If you want it, you're going to get it. So now that you have Martin Luther, he wins his protest just so he can keep the money on this side. It wasn't no divine thing. He didn't do this because God wasn't pleased. God is not pleased. He didn't do that because God was not pleased. He did that because he was not pleased. He had them harvesting stuff, and then Rome would come and take it and leave them to start over with nothing to work with, and the people were suffering. Now, that humanitarian piece was a part of it, but the bigger piece was he wanted to control the money. Facts. Martin Luther didn't even like Jews. So please don't tell me his thing was a biblical thing of proportion and God was with him divinely. Okay, so when you understand the church history, now you got your Protestant. I'm going to do a great big chronological leap right here. So, there's a lot I'm going to skip over so you can learn something quickly. So now what happens, when you and I today talk about Black history, we have to remember the Black history and the benefit the Black church gave to the story of February's month of Black history celebration. The church, the Black church, by the time you and I were born, people listening to me now, most of you, some of y'all did not live back in at Edmonds Bridge, and you were not at the Woolworth being beat up. You heard about it, you read about it, you know it from hindsight. You were not a part of that generation, at least knowledgeably enough to understand it, and or much of the other lynching that went on. Now, the point to this is that the Black church was the way the Black people oppressed slaves who were told they were free but were never let to be free. The Black church was a way to communicate their activisms about their oppression without being seen by the oppressor. And the oppressor was cool with them going to church. They considered their church a bunch of foolishness, jumping up and down, screaming, hollering, running around there like some Africans from some crazy country. Let them do that over there. As long as they're doing that, they better have their butts at work when I blow that whistle. That's all that they cared about. So intelligently, the African Americans, the DOSs, the ADOs, the African descendants of slaves, they figured we could talk pretty freely as long as we're at that church building. So now by the time you and I come along, fast forward, you and I believe that the Black church is supposed to be a place of activism. No, the Black church was used to give activism a place they could start as an embryo. The church of the God of our salvation doesn't use the tabernacle for that, does not use the temple for that. But because we had limited resources in our era, this Black history piece of all the great icon, Martin Luther, Malcolm X, and all these others did, they used their religious podiums to keep the oppressors out because they knew it was a safe place, and then they would work from there. Once they found out that the Black church was doing the activism meetings, they started blowing them up. Listen, because somebody said, yo, we got played. They're having activism meetings disguised as church meetings, and we're so used to them going to church, we don't know that they're actually plotting to uproot us and overthrow us. So they started blowing up the churches. Now y'all get the bombings? Nobody gonna talk to me? All right, fair enough.
Got it.
You understand? Same thing happened in Islam and NOI. Same thing happened in other countries with their faith systems and their oppressors there. Y'all know, y'all, I don't know if this is actually impressing y'all or not. So once you get this and you understand this, now you realize where we make the statement for our conversation today. The Black church in Black history, it's a Black affair. The Black church was helpful in getting the activism going. Safe place. We have established that. Now moving forward and jumping over a myriad of things, just so we can hit the points that this program is about these next 2 days, is that the Black church now is, like any other church, looked at differently. Caucasian churches don't have activism meetings in their churches. They just go by a building. Klan didn't do this in their churches. They did it on the streets. They didn't have to worry about it. You and I, our people, had to hide under the guise of religious event. They did it in the park. and then they went to church. I'm going to say it again. Some of y'all didn't catch that. Our oppressors never had to hide inside their church to propagate their agenda. They went to the park, they rented the civic center, and then they went to their church after they did that. Y'all understanding the difference here? And this is where I get mad with black clergy and I get mad with black people, because we stay ignorant about things that are right in front of our face. They didn't never have to hide. They hid their faces. But when they put on their white sheets, they were out in public. They wasn't in the church. They came to blow up your church because that was the place they found out you were meeting for more than just your God. Matter of fact, the God we colonialized you under and told you that you obey your masters. Y'all know that whole narrative, right? For the black rights movement, right? Y'all get all that, right? So understand, they're like, oh, we let y'all have church. We gave y'all time off so y'all can go to your church because we felt that kept y'all calm and easy with the oppression we know we giving you, but we gaslighted you into thinking, this is what it should be. And we try to push Stockholm syndrome on y'all. But at the end of the day, we found out now, one of my little good house Negroes done come and told me that y'all was down there thinking about a way that you're gonna come up under from Charlie's farm, and we can't have that. So now we found out that y'all been down there in them places having these meetings after your services. Okay, me and my sheets, we're gonna come. We're gonna fix y'all little meeting place because we can do our meetings out here in public. But you've been hiding what you're doing and making us think we let y'all do it and we give you an inch. You try to take them out. So we're gonna take away the inch now. We're gonna blow up the whole building. You won't be having meetings there anymore. Now, it's no different than what would happen back in the days before your modern day churches was built, back in the days of early slavery, the early establishment of the United States of America, when they just had cotton fields and the people would go down by the river. Some of the songs that you have as Negro spirituals were telling you where we're going to meet me down by the river for our effort and concern. So when the days of Sojourner Truth and in the days of Harriet Tubman, they would end the songs while they were singing in the field, while work was about to conclude, sending the message by the Negro spiritual. They sang in the sugarcane, they sang with the cotton field, they sang at the pig halls, and they would be singing the song so everybody knew, yo, we're going to meet down by the river tonight. Am I the only person teaching y'all history? So you got to understand that when Johnny Slave Master found out, he went to destroy the places you were meeting to do away with this. So the black church, back to the black church, chronological leap forward. We're doing a big chronological quantum leap forward. Watch this. So the black church for you and I today, what's its role? What's its part? With all of these real issues that we're dealing with, in our world, we are better for what Martin Luther King did. Martin Luther King, the Baptist preacher, did and the Nobel Peace Prize winner did for us. We're better because of Malcolm X's position and understanding. We're better because of what Nelson Mandela had done. We're better because of what Gandhi propagated and preached. We're better because of what Medgar Evers tried to accomplish. We're better because of Al Sharpton. No disrespect, the man is still alive. Give him his props while he's alive. He got issues. We all got issues. Martin has issues. Malcolm had issues. Gandhi got issues. Tibetan Gandhi, Nelson Mandela got issues. But the overall purpose of their life, what they pointed us towards, forget their ancillary issues and struggles and proclivities and propensities that all men are subject to. Forget all of that. Forget the cheating and the adultery and the smoking and the abuse of liquor and drugs and all that. Forget all that. Their purpose for what we now remember them for as icons, we are better for. And the church places that we gathered under help to guide and or to disguise their conversations of necessity to move the activity forward in their activism. Now, when you understand that, you will see now why the Black church today, nowhere near full of activities for activism as they were back in those days, sits around and expects you to be in its building all day. So let me talk about the church and being in that building all day. The reason you see it that way today, and where people who have churches, I've had many, and I just hated the fact that people were in them so long. And when I did away with a lot of the stuff that we were doing, it was because people were always saying, well, you know, we're going to have these events and we're going to do this. And then we got, you know, some of y'all got Masonic lodges and Eastern Stars, and some of y'all got other different things. And we want to have these events here. We're going to do these things here. So we got to get the place clean. We got to pick the annex right. We got to get the food cooked up. We got to do a funeral. We got to do weddings. So we're going to be this. We're going to have this multi-cultural center. We're going to be a civic center for the community. And so what would happen is the church now was more known to be a civic center. So your church would literally have you come down and be responsible for keeping the civic center clean, which should be something that should be done. But the reason y'all back and forth in church in this way, in this cycle, is because we've forgotten you are no longer fighting causes. So the reason they were in the church back in that day was because, okay, Massa gonna let us go to church. But what we gonna do is we got Martin Luther the King, we got Medgar Evers coming through, we got stuff, other people trying to set up these protests. They're gonna come in, and we're gonna get them in and get them fed, and then we're gonna stay behind to listen to what they talking about, so Master don't see what we doing, and until we get launched, right? And so the people would come in and make the sacrifice because the purpose was so important. So they would go home, and the husband and the wife would come back with the children, and we setting up tables, we setting up chairs, we sweeping out the floor. Somebody's cooking beans, somebody cooking the 5-bean salad, somebody's cooking the meats, the proteins, and we're bringing all these potluck dishes so we can all sit down and talk about what the activist wants to talk about, and still look like it's just a preacher preaching in the pulpit. This is where the Black church irritates me, because we don't know that that is what they were doing. And now, generations after those meetings, people are saying, well, I remember grandmama and they were down at church all day, every day. So now your church, without the same activism, without the same cause, is demanding you be at church every day, every week. God ain't pleased if you ain't here. Forsake not the assembling of yourselves together, as some is. They are not the same. And what it's done, are y'all ready for the punchline? What it's done, somebody say I'm ready for the punchline, because I got to close this off right now and go back part 2 later on. Ready for the punchline. Y'all really ready? All right, I want y'all to catch this. So now when I say this, and I'm talking from history, I'm talking from personal experience, this type of activity left you and I away from our homes. Now, in the days of the activism for civil rights, being away from home was literally to protect and progress our homes. Now we're in churches, and we're not progressing our homes, we're progressing the status of the church building and establisher of it, so that they can say to the mayor, we are powerful people, we are voting bloc. That's great. If that's truly what you're trying to do, let the mayor and the governor and the aldermen and the constables and the police chief and the sheriff department know that you got enough people you control, you can help guide their vote on any type of jurisdiction or legislation that they're trying to push forward. And if you give us respect over here, we'll come around and we'll support you and get you in the office. Now it's become just politics, not purpose for better life. Though politics should be used for that, we have allowed ourselves to digress grossly in that regard. And now we got people who are just glad to have some people who voted them in, and I'm the big dog, and I get new suits now, and y'all gonna give me pastoral appreciations every year, and they're gonna call me the man of God, and they're gonna call her the first lady, they're gonna call him the woman, the man of God, and all of this stuff. And then you now have nothing you're fighting for in the neighborhood, nothing you're fighting for the world of humanity. You're just fighting to say that we, the Church of God, over here. And so, back in the day, our grandmothers, you remember Grandmother Nookie, she would be down here every day preaching and talking, and every day she would be down here cooking, and somebody be down here in the backyard, somebody be cutting the church, and now y'all want to be paid for all these stuff. Well, back in that day, they did this, and that's what they did. But the reason they did it was the cause. You're now holding people accountable and holding people hostage, saying they used to do that. Y'all ain't like the old people. Y'all, well, we ain't doing what the old people did. Until you get to that, then we have no reason to be in that building Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. I don't care if it's choir rehearsal, children's choir rehearsal, adult choir rehearsal, a men's choir, a woman's choir. I don't care if it's for theological understanding. I don't care. There's no reason to be in that building that many daggone days that where the family now can't even see each other and spend time with each other, because dad ain't going back down to that church. He don't even like the preacher, because him and they got into a fight over some dice him and the preacher was shooting in the backyard. Y'all don't want to talk about that, do y'all? Okay, because the man of the house ain't going down there because Johnny Preacher still owe him $30 from the crap game he lost the other day, talking about God will pay it, Jesus paid it. Y'all don't like that part, do y'all? Yeah. And so the woman, the wife is going back down there. She's dragging some of the children down there to go down there. They failing in school because they're not home where their environment is, so that the mom and the dad can be together, teach their children, raise their children. And the church, though it was a benefit for Black history, it became a detriment for the Black family. Oh my God. Oh, Apostle, I just disagree with that. I just disagree with that. There's no way in the world that's true, because the church is teaching us about God. Is it? Because if it was teaching you about God, you would only gather 9 times in a year, mandatorily. If it was teaching you about God, you would not have the problems with men, women despising the church on their block, 8 different churches on your block, and saying, my wife, my husband is down at that daggone building. Watch this. My wife, the man is saying, my wife is down there at that building with them women cackling like hen, talking about Sally, Jimmy, and Susie and Johnny, and I can't get a decent meal, though I might not be the best man on the planet, but they not even down here. So I'm gonna go to the juke joint. I'm gonna go down here to the strip bar. I'm gonna go down here to what they call the strip joint. And you want to go to your church? I'm gonna go to my church. And if you're home with your man and your children, they will see a consistent family model. And I'm sorry, the church is responsible for much of that deterioration. The wife, she's saying to the leader of the church, my husband down at that daggone building more times than a little bit. They call, he got to run. They move, the building got to be this. Something got to happen. I can't get my husband. I married that man. I didn't marry Pastor such and so. I married that man. I can't even have my husband here because, watch this, the church has become its mistress. So I want y'all to understand, turn it up. I want y'all to understand this. This is a real thing. So now you understand my entitlement of today's message. Y'all didn't know where I was going with this. Oh, I'm going to bring it home on tomorrow, on Wednesday. The Black church in Black history. Man, I'm going to tell you what I know, not what I heard. It's the reason for Black affair. Because you're down at the church so much, you're not home with your wife, you're not home with your husband. And you know you got different needs, emotional, physical, marital, relational, but where you are is where you demonstrate those needs, exhibit and receive those needs. Well, mama, husband or wife, daddy, wife, or whatever, is at home, and maybe they with you at that place, but you're doing separate things because the function of this organization has you divided. And Yahweh did not put the church, put a place to gather, put the tabernacle, put the temple to bring division in the homes that were supposed to come there together. And then the Levites do their job, but the Levites are full families. Those full families are responsible for the tabernacle. They are doing this because that's their job. Just like you and your tribe went out into the orange groves, went out into the apple orchards, went out into vineyards to gather and collect and then go home. Then divide up, send your tithe, bring your offerings, but your family came to the congregation and your family went home. You didn't stay there because the Levites had that handled. Black church, y'all better wake up. You want to know why you got so many affairs? You want to know why the preacher's sleeping with every deaconess in the church? You want to know why the deacons are sleeping with every married yet not single woman in the church? Y'all don't want to hear me today. Y'all know what? Y'all don't want to talk to me. You want to know why you got lesbianism and you got homosexuality. And I'm gonna tell you something right now. You don't like it, what I'm gonna tell you, but I'm telling you what I know. Your church is responsible for half of that garbage. Them boys got turned out somehow. Them girls got turned out somehow. So it had to be another woman and another man to turn out a man and turn out a woman. Now you say, oh, you being subjective. Now I can't listen to you at all. I'm just telling y'all right now, the Black church, with regards to Black history, we're the reason for the Black affair. Do your real homework. The Black church and its role in Black history awesomely benefited the movement. But I cannot say the Black church, I didn't say the Church of God. I didn't say the white church. I didn't say the Anglican church. I said the Black church is also the reason for the amount of Black affairs it has. Are y'all understanding what I'm saying? Have I offended anyone with this? I'm going to take a few moments. We got 10 minutes. Now, I'm not talking about coming off a microphone and, oh, you right, because the church, no, I want to have a real conversation, not your emotions about, yeah, my husband was a pastor, he cheated. Don't come off mic. You stay there. No, yeah, my wife, she went down there and then the deacon had a relationship with the deacon. Y'all know that song Freaky Deek had a background, right? Y'all remember that song? Freaky Deek. Y'all know there's a reason those were the hook to a very popular song, right? Maybe y'all didn't get it. Freaky Deek. Oh, y'all thought it was a freaky, like freaky, and then he like Deek. No, he was talking about Freaky Deacon. I'm gonna leave y'all alone.
Rogers.
How do we now properly assess? And I've not even got started on this. And this is not to bring division. This is not to bring degradation. This is not to bring embarrassment. But I'm hoping we can get assimilation. And the big part of this is it's just because we have never understood church, because we are a generation behind generations of generations of generations of generations of generations that inaccuracy and fallacy with regards to theology have been presented. And by the time we got it, those who changed the regulations, changed the rulings, wrote the history, that history became our gospel. And the history writers were recording the events of tragedy And then they only kept in so much, and certain parts got edited out and certain parts got redacted. And by the time you and I were born, millennia and centuries later, decades later, we deem that as the gospel. And then we make that our narrative for our practical application. And it's wrong. And we think that is what it is. And we're wondering, why is church so burdensome? Why is my wife or my husband at that building so many darn days, and I want them home? And oh, well, I'm the pastor of the church, so I got to be down there. If ain't nobody gonna do it, ain't gonna get done. No, that ain't how it works. Why are you down there cooking for them all the time? You got my meal over here in the microwave, but you down there cooking fresh batch of chicken, fresh batch of fish down there for that deacon board and that board of elders. When you gonna come home here and say amen to me? I'm doing the Lord work. Get your mind out the gutter, Charlie. I'm going to see. I'll be back. That's why I need Jesus, because you get on my nerve. And then you get down and you tell Thelma, and you and Louise sit there and talk about what your husband Charlie done did, and Thelma's sneaky behind. She'd be like, oh, Charlie mad at you? Child, he don't know Jesus. You know I'm talking about it. Okay, cool. You know what, baby girl? My stomach hurt. I think I'm going to go home and get me some KO Pectate. And it ain't KO Pectate. It's Charlie she went to, because you down at the, y'all going to talk to me because I know what I'm talking about. We do way too much. So the Black church needs to be addressed, not just the state of the Black church. And then we think the Black church is supposed to do things that have been augmented into its responsibilities. And then we want to blame the Black church for our neighborhoods deteriorating. And in part, we are complicit, primarily because we don't understand. We don't understand that we've been doing church wrong. And if we're gathering less at the church, we're able to gather more at home, and we're galvanizing our families. And now we have an even exchange of the doctrine from the church properly affecting our families. And now we're with our families as parenthoods in our families, propagating the doctrine of the apostles that's being taught from that place Elohim put his name. He don't live. And now we can go home and make a model of that in our area of control. And now when we as a family come out to go to that place, and all the other families in our neighborhood come out, galvanize, and go to that place, now we have this microcosm of the real product, and the churches looks like a group of families, not a there was a word I wanted to use. Not a bunch of divided people coming from a home that's not a bunch of homes divided because the people want to go different ways. And again, this ain't about the pastor. This ain't about the deacon. This ain't about the wife. This ain't about the deaconess. This ain't about the bishop. This ain't about the husband at home who's angry. This is about the people not understanding why we do church and how Elohim wants it done. Once we assess what he wants done and then do it his way, this problem of the Black affair goes away. Many of you are able to view online our broadcasts with your husband and wife sitting right there. And you're not down at the church where they can't see what you're doing. They actually see what you're doing. They hear what you're saying. And they might not believe it because they already have their preconceived ideal about church. And, but after a while, they keep listening to you listen, whether you're the husband or you're the wife. They're like, well, all right, let's see why you listen to that now. What they talking about next week? I might be there. I might sit down there with you next week. Because I was upstairs in the man cave, or I was downstairs in the she shed. But, I be listening to you, because many of them will admit, hey, I listen every now and then. But you're home. You're cooking dinner while listening. See, because when you're sitting in a building where you can't cook dinner except for them, and then you go home and you're too tired to cook for your home, that's a problem. Is this helping anybody but me?
It's helping, Apostle. Thank you.
So when we understand how to church and not just go to church because a church exists, that's what we do. We go to church because a church exists. A church alive is worth the drive. My church better than your church. I mean, you might as well say my milkshake better than yours. I mean, if you know the song, don't judge me. Don't judge me. I'm just telling you what came to mind. So I said it. So at the end of the day, just because we go to church because that's what's expected to be done. But we don't know why you go to church. You come to church so God can save your soul. No, you don't go to church so God can save your soul. He saves your soul by your confession of faith. I don't need the church to do that. But once I do, I go to church to deal with people who may have a testimonial that I'm going through because they've been at it longer, and then they're going to guide me to the word that I confess to be saved. That's my salvation. Does the church have an important fact to play? Yes. That's why we gather. That's why David says, I was glad when one of the 9 times we gather a year came along. Oh, I'm sorry. Y'all didn't read it that way. Okay, let me read it in your translation. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. They only went into the house of the Lord as a congregation once, 9 times in a year. They did not go once a week. You went separately. Drop off your tithe or your sin offering, or talk to a priest to pray, give you a piece of advice, but you didn't gather as we assemble. So when you say forsake not the assembling of ourselves together as the manner of some is, you're talking about the manner, the custom, the law, the Torah, the mitzvah of a Moedim. It hits different. All right, moderators, if you're on microphone and you want to share on Clubhouse, I took up the 8 minutes I thought we had, so I'm going to go ahead and give us 20 minutes on this one. I did hear Elder Rogers' voice. If anybody's out here on our platforms, the YouTube or the Facebook, please feel free to drop your question in the box, or prepare one for Wednesday. Wednesday, there'll be more time for dialogue because I have a monologue that will be about 35 minutes to cap what I was teaching you today and sharing with you today. And then on Proceeding Word on this coming Wednesday, we will be then part 2 concluding, and then we're going to have conversation. And I'm hoping it stirred some of you up in a way of understanding history you had not considered before. So like I said before, we want to do that. So if you got a question or a thought, Elder Rogers is up. Nope. Elder Rogers.
Yes,
So
yes,
pause.
sir,
So if anyone else has something you want to share, hey, Ambassador, I just happened to look at my phone. Good to see you, Brother Ace. What's up, man? Good to see you, Nick. MDTV. Oh my gosh, so good to hear from you. Shalom Aleichem. Major daughter, we love you. Miss you. So if you guys got a thought or a question, just say your name, and our moderators will pick you up and make your add value to the topic at the table. Elder Rogers, in your wisdom, you have the floor. Go ahead.
So shalom to everyone. I did make a comment on Facebook, and basically it said about if we don't accurately know our history, then we will repeat it, in error. And I am thankful for the opportunity to listen to this broadcast, because a lot of things I did not know in such detail. I may have heard about it, but to go into the detail, I did not. So Yahweh be praised. And it's really something when we talk about how our rights, our educational things of our history is being taken away, but it's not their responsibility to teach ours and our children our history. So if we would get the accurate understanding and the true historical nature of it, then we can pass it along accurately.
Let me pause you and put a pin in what you said. You said I want y'all to hear what she said. It's very important for you to catch. It is not the responsibility of the church to teach our children. What you say, Mr. Apostle Man? Hear it again. It is not the responsibility of our church to teach our children. Okay, you done completely lost your mind. Y'all tune this man off. He is completely weird. All right. If it was, then why does Yahweh say, every Moedim, I want the men to come see me? Now, here is the indictment of that. If the men come, because the culture is that the man's the head of the house, not like he the boss. That's not what it means. But if the man comes, the woman gonna follow her man. And who's going to follow the woman? Following her man, the children. So when the man comes, it's the parenthood that's being talked to. If the children should overhear it, wonderful. Because when the parent head goes home, they're going to put this in their home, and the children can say, oh, I heard that. Okay, daddy. No, here's what that looks like practically for us. Because my house is different than Elder Rogers' house. My house is different than Pastor Spencer's house. My house is different than the author Grice's house. So for us working out our soul salvation with fear and trembling before the Lord, because me and mama are at there listening to the words coming out of the Torah from the Levitical order, I understand what this means. I'm going home with my family, and guys, here's what we're doing based on the doctrine that's coming from the place we gather, because we got like mind there with the Grices, with the Rogers, with the Spencers, and but for us, this is what works for us this way here. It's not the job of the church to teach your children. And if you can't keep the mother and the father going to get the words of Elohim, then the word getting back to the children is going to be skewed. But when mom and dad are able to go and they're comfortable going, they're not being abused, as it were, with, overworking our time. The man is like, look, man, I know Pastor wants y'all down there, but I got to work at 4 a.m. in the morning. Y'all be getting out of church at 11:30 at night for no reason. Y'all got went in at 11. Don't get out till 11:30 at night. I got to get work, baby. Well, baby, that's Jesus. That's the Holy Ghost. You got to come in. Let him use you, honey. I know it's new. He gonna get that corn off your toe if you do. Give him a shot. Watch. No, I gotta go to bed. I want to go to bed. I gotta go to work in the morning, and then if I ain't working in the morning, I can't pay the rent. I gotta go to bed. Let me go to bed. And fall asleep on the altar and miss work tomorrow morning. Now you're like, we need to pray for a new job. No, you need to use wisdom. Your church is not supposed to keep you there all kind of night. That is that's witchcraft. Sorry, not sorry. Go home. You got to work. Night comes when a man can't work. So you're supposed to be working. When you go to the sanctuary, it's 9 times in a year. Unless you're bringing your tithe or you're going for a particular reason for prayer, but you're not gathering like a whole group at one time except 9 times in a year. They're called the 7 appointed times. They're called the 3 feast seasons. Now, to those of us who have churches, this sounds completely counterproductive. This sounds like you're trying to shut our church down. No. Did you notice that the tabernacle never had a problem paying the mortgage? Do you notice that the synagogues don't have a problem with real wood and real decorations in their ministries, and they don't have a problem, and they don't go to those buildings all that? You know why they still stand up? Because they ain't got people in there tracking in and out of there every daggone day, 5 times a week, 6 times in an hour, and because they go there when they're supposed to go there, and then they go to work when they're supposed to go to work. Nope, not us in the Black Christian church. No, we just need more Jesus. We need more Shanda. We need more Hiko. We need more Sprizite. Get the bullshit. No, you don't need. Take your behind home. Talk with your children, love on your spouse, be a parenthood to your home life, make sure that they understand we go to the house of Elohim together. Then they will propagate that when they have their children, and the generations will perpetuate that. This is where we made the mistake. But to talk about that, and to pastors, we have churches, they're like, nah, you're supposed to get here when we say get here, because God's about to do something. We about to have a dynamic conference, and we need everybody on hand so we can get the power of God to move in our churches. Do you know when the power of God really moves for y'all in your churches? Is when you who have kept Shabbat, have let Elohim come into your homes, all of you now power charge, go down to the church because you obeyed his word. And then when you connect with others who did what you did, whoo, what an experience that will be. And Elohim gets the right to talk to us as a group. And now we solidify what we're doing individually in our own homes. And this is where we've allowed for the church, because of all the time we spend with it, to be a mistress in more ways than one. I will never retract what I have taught you today, because I've lived it. And I'm constantly helping pastors manage it. That's why I counsel so many leaders. But it's hard to get the traditions out of people's heads. All right, Apostle Elder Walker Rogers, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I wanted to stick that pin in there at that point so you would understand that it's not the job of the church to teach your children. It's the job of the parents. The parents are supposed to go and get what they need so they can carry it back home and feed. Is it the grocery market? Listen, let me give you an analogy you might not think relevant, but here it is. Watch. Is it the grocery market's responsibility to feed your children? Or is the parent, or are the parents supposed to go to the grocery market, buy the common item, and bring it home and cook it their way for their children?
Perfect analogy.
Anybody want to say wow? I'll give you the chance to say wow right now. Wow.
Absolutely.
All right.
Wow. And then to even cut it deeper, not only, but then we're looking at the government. We're looking at other cultures to train and teach our children about our culture. And it's just, so we see the what's happening. And then also I'll put this, if I had known then what I know now. Oof.
Yeah. As much church as you spent, dear God, I'm surprised. You bleed communion wine, don't you? I know you do. I know you do. she believed the communion wine. Matter of fact, every time she go to church, just one thing about Elder Rogers and me when I had hair. Listen, we went to church so much. So some of y'all gonna get this, some of y'all won't. If y'all get it, I want y'all to laugh. See, we went to church so much. That's where we got our hot oil treatments for our hair.
And you know what?
Because the AC ain't work in them churches. We sweat and waving fans, and somebody's always slinging oil on our head. Hand grease. That was your hot oil treatment. Only beauticians gonna get that one, I guess. All right. And Michelle said, I'm done. Hey, Grace. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Y'all, I hope you enjoyed yourself. Elder Rogers, thanks for adding value.
Daphne.
All right, Daphne. Who's next, moderators?
Daphne.
All right, Daphne, go ahead.
Daphne. Apostle, thank you. I had made a little slick comment, but this was just so much knowledge that you brought up to the front. And I was just reflecting back on where that song came out with the Beyonce, and they was all blowing up in smoke about that song. But there was so much truth to all of this. I'm just listening to what you just taught us. There's so much truth to this stuff. Just thank you for that teaching us.
Let me tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all something. I am not a beehive. I'm not a part of the beehive. And I can say this because it ain't Sabbath. I'm not a part of the beehive. I can say this honestly. If I love music, I'm a musician, and I think I can carry a tune in a bucket every now and then. So I love music. I love all kind of music. I don't care who's singing it. I don't care if it's country, western. I don't care if I love music. I don't care if it's hillbilly, slapstick. I don't care. I love music. I can get with any kind of music, rap, bad rap, good rap, reggae, calypso, R&B, pop, jazz, fusion. I love music. So my thing is, I'm not a beehive. But I'm gonna tell y'all this: that particular song that put the church in an uproar, there was no lies detected.
Amen.
You ain't got to like it, but there was no lies detected. That was their experience. Why? Because the black church doesn't understand church Elohim's way. We understand church Christian way. And that almost, if you don't know me, you would think I'm being disrespectful. But those of you who know me, you know there's a difference between kingdom and Christendom. Christendom propagates what the kingdom wants, told, but living it, they're done differently. All right. So when it comes to that song by Beyonce, yeah, I saw no lies detected. I saw no lies detected in that song. Y'all got upset about it. Why is she talking about the church like that? You upset she's talking about the church like that. She probably could have did it differently. She probably should have went and sat with some counselor and talked about the issues that she has, and she found a way to make money out of it, because we are so ratchet ourselves with it. We really, y'all don't like me today. We are so ratchet. We are so unbothered. We are so unconcerned until we get into a righteous state where you got hurt in your family. Until it happens to you, until it hurts your family, you don't care about what they do in the church. Now, this outside, and she knows and has a relationship with a church, but everything that goes on in our lives and what she talked about in that song, ain't no lies detected. I listened to it because, of course, 18 people came to me talking about, well, Beyonce talking bad about the church. They coming for God people. I'm like, no, they came to God's people, and apparently their experience made them write a song about it. Like to hear it? Here you go. I got no problem with what she said. I hope it would bring us to conviction. Because if we don't like the narrative, then we need to change it, which means we got to change the way we do in church. There were no lies detected in that song she sang. Oh, she's just demonic. Well, give her an option so she doesn't have to see demonology as what, in fact, she wants to carry out. Where are you at? Is your light shining? Clearly it wasn't. If she writing songs about the church, the lights must have been out, because that's the stuff they do in the dark in your church. Okay. All right. I think I've lost my membership and followers. Y'all ready to give up on a brother? Y'all better let go.
We get it. Sir.
Okay. Ambassador, we don't get opportunity too often to catch you on broadcast with us. You have any comments you'd like to make? You know, I love you and Pastor. How y'all doing? If you can't, don't worry about it. Just flash your mic. If you can't talk, that's fine. I'm back.
Apostle, I'm stuck where you talked about, honestly. I always ponder that, and I don't ask a lot of questions sometimes because I grew up rural Mississippi, and I've traveled a little bit, but I never understood why they were bombing churches, and you know how the little black girls got bombed in Birmingham. I never got it until today. And I agree 100% about the Black history in what we call the body of Yeshua, the house of prayer, and about the politics and all of that. Everything you said was 100% true, and I yield.
Yahweh be praised. Tell Pastor I said shalom, and don't yield until you give him a big squeeze. I want you to squeeze him too. Get under his rib cage and squeeze him, pull his shoulder blades into you. Tell him that's from Apostle.
Apostle, Pastor Charles still works. He's on that truck.
Whenever you find him, send it to him.
Okay.
And so, hey, Bishop Alton, good to have you, man. Shalom to you, my brother. Great to have you with us. Listen, and many people don't know what they just, oh my God, such an American terroristic event. No, that was when you're in war, the bombing of those black churches, when you're in war, your best way to defeat your adversary is by destroying their communications. You attack their comms, their communications. So they knew that the black church, they were disguising, they were using the cover of the church to put their offensives and initiatives together. And when they found out, well, we're going to destroy your communication hubs. And to have casualty of war added to the fear factor that you won't gather again like that. That's war technique. And if y'all think you're not at war every day in your life, it's an unnecessary war. Yahweh didn't intend this. You're delusional. You're under some fallacy of thought. So we gotta understand that. And like you say, Ambassador, the truth is, that's what was happening. They found out we were communicating our purpose and our plans after or before, but shrouded in the church services. You know, because they was always known for having a revival. They'd always have some speaker coming. And you know what was funny? Y'all, let me blow your mind for a second on this. Can I blow your mind for a second on this? I need permission to blow your mind for a second on this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Okay. The black church, particularly in America, having been given the Bibles from the plantation owners, and the plantation owners were really secure with letting them gather, right, in plantation and subsequently over time in regular black churches during these, heinous racial crimes. The reason that the oppressor was so cool with it was because, like I told you, they had liaisons. These plantation owners and more progressive oppressors, as time went on, they sent in preachers to the churches. They sent for preachers, black slaves from other campuses that they had now indoctrinated to what they wanted to be said, obey your masters. So anytime you got the plantation owner bringing in a preacher, oh, y'all go have church all night long. Yeah, y'all go. Get back for work on time. But yeah, y'all go ahead, because I know what they teaching y'all. Y'all don't want to talk to me today. See, listen. So the plantation owners and the oppressors were cool with y'all going to church as much as you wanted, because they felt they had a place that they knew you were going to learn, do what God said. God said you're supposed to be under us and you're supposed to obey them that got rule over you in the Lord. If y'all don't know your history, go back and do it. They would send in preachers, plantation slaves, to go preach. They would send them around on a circuit. Where y'all think y'all got that word circuit from? Where y'all think y'all got that phrase in artistry, the Chitlin circuit, from? I don't have all day to teach y'all history. Y'all got to do it yourself.
The slave Bible now. Don't forget that one.
So at the end of the day, they had no problem with y'all going to church, because they always knew when y'all left church, y'all would be calm. Yes, the master, I raped your daughter, and I raped your wife, and I killed your son. Go to church. Let God tell you that was okay. That's literally the mindset that would take place. Y'all don't like that harsh reality, do y'all? Because we don't talk about it that way unless you are looking for it, and then you got to seem, now they call you a militant when you bring that up. We let your grandmama die. We knew she was weak and old. She needed medication. We didn't care. We didn't care that gout was all up to her thigh. We didn't care about that. Y'all, now she died. I could have got you help, but I didn't. Now, don't you get mad with me. Don't you come at me. Don't you come at me. And now I'm justified in whipping you now. And now I'm going to whip you. I'm going to cut off your leg like Kunta Kinte. And now you can't go nowhere, because the sheriff going to send you back here if you try to run away. So you go there in the church and let God, pray to your God and pray to God. And God will tell you that you was wrong for coming against your master. See, y'all, this is what that was about. So once they found out you were using the place they deemed safe for you to get through your emotional trauma about their oppression over you, and then you were using it as a way to get back at them, they're gonna blow up your comms. They're gonna blow up your communications, your communication hub. That's an act of war. And they didn't care about the casualties of that war. And it wasn't just those 4 little girls, beautiful little girls. There were many more than that. They didn't get publicized, because they went after the place where these freedom riders would come into. How else do you get the people of the cause heard? You bring them to the people of the cause. Okay, I don't know. Okay, y'all, somebody answer this question. Why does Apostle sound like Ike Turner? Really? That's what we doing? Do I sound like Ike Turner? I didn't say nothing like Ike Turner. Eat the cake, anime. I ain't say that. Guys, it was just for some fun. Okay. Daphne makes a good point. Now, Daphne, this is one of the better points I've seen you making. You make good points all the time, but this is a very good point. Nat Turner was one that they would let go all around plantations. Plantation owners would be like, yo, get that Negro Turner down here. My Negroes is acting up. I need to get he know how to communicate to them our unified message, y'all. So send Nat Turner down here to me in South Carolina. Send him over to me in North Carolina. Send him to me in Virginia. Send him to me in Florida. And they would literally send Nat Turner to all these different places to teach. Now, once he got full and realized what he was being used for, Nat Turner's story changes. He starts to teach the truth, and that's when the revolt started. So know the history of what I'm talking about. All right. All right. So I used up all my time. I guess you guys are done with me. No more questions or thoughts. I'll be back on Wednesday to bring a 30-minute conclusion, and then we'll have dialogue. So if you got thoughts or questions you want to have, bring them there. But Ambassador, thanks for sharing and adding value to the platform as well. Elder Rogers, thank you for your share and added value as well. Anyone else? One last second.
Apostle, just quickly. Let us guard our hearts. We've heard some stuff, and I have to guard my heart that no negativity comes up in my heart because of it. That's all. I yield.
I'm sorry. What do you mean? Let us guard our hearts. What's
anger, resentment, hatred. Even I'm not to the point of hatred or anything, but just to know and to hear how our people have been treated.
Oh, you got to lead in better than that, Elder, because you got me thinking something going on. I'm looking for platforms. There's something being said on the platform or something in the thread. So you're talking about having this history revoiced in your hearing today can stir up the hatred and the animosity, because it can, some stuff we didn't know, some stuff we do know, some stuff we knew but didn't pay attention to it or didn't know its significance. And so you're saying to guard our hearts against becoming angry over history. Is that what you're saying, or are you saying something else?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay, well, I'm gonna need you to lead in better, just because you got your little free. I know you mad that you ain't getting your hot oil treatments anymore, but what I'm gonna need.
That's the one that I'm gonna.
We're gonna need you to lead it a little bit better than that, okay? Anybody else out there miss them hot oil treatments? Y'all got at church every degree. Y'all never had the preacher pour the whole bottle of oil, olive oil Pompeii, and splash it on your head. That was a hot oil treatment. Okay, all right, I'm gonna go. So guard your hearts, as Elder Rogers is recommending. Don't let it get you upset. I don't, so I can always talk about it when we do, in a right way, where others that I talk to of my melanated genre can get angry and want to fight and all this. I'm like, that's history. It's already happened. What do we do going forward? And as long as we're going to stay in the same foolishness that got us in the mess, then we're not going to make any changes to get out of the mess. And that's where you gotta guard your heart. I remember telling somebody history, and they went out and just got into a fight with a whole bunch of what they call white people. I don't know if there's white, Latino, or whatever, because of what they learned about the history that they did not know. And I'm like, you can't take that out on that person there. That's what happened back when. Well, they may be generations connected to that, but you can't take it out on them unless they demonstrate to you that they believe in what was done back when. So that's what Elder Rogers is talking about. Just guard your hearts. Make sure you don't let this stuff get you upset. It's not a reason to be upset anymore. It's a reason to consider how you need to move forward. And we need to operate in that type of wisdom. All right, everybody. Let us pray. Yahweh, we thank you for the day, time, and place. We're asking you to be with us, in us, through us, and toward us for your name's sake and for your praise. To you, literally, we ask to be glory, honor, dominion, might, and power, both now and forever. You have given us a word today to share with your people and a conversation to be had with your people. And we do believe, Father, that this issue of the Black church in regards to Black history must always be properly communicated, because it has caused Black affairs in more ways than one, in more genres than one, than the typical genres of demonized preaching points. So today, help us to consider all things that are of you, by you, and through you. In the mighty and in the matchless name of Yeshua HaMashiach, we pray and we ask. Amen. All right, Zion, we're going to let you guys go, remembering that you are here today, understanding that the Black church in Black history, well, it's a Black affair. Shalom Aleichem.
Truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.